It's particularly relevant today because there's so much in terms of conservation, climate change, how that's affecting these species. And it's difficult to try and understand how species that perhaps spend part of their year in Europe, another part of the year in Africa, what is going on to these populations. We've learned, for example, in this first talk that climate in Africa has a lot of influence on the birds that come back, return to us in Europe. And we've had a tradition, as Minister Cortés in his opening said, going back to the 18th century, when people were debating the very fact that birds migrated that far back. Their observations from Gibraltar reported already in the late 1700s. At the time of the Great Siege, incredibly, people are reporting back. So Gibraltar has always been a pivotal point. We are celebrating a very important book that was published in 1972, which was really a seminal book, groundbreaking book at the time, and it's 50 years on. So if you link the 50th anniversary of the book and Gibraltar, it was a natural thing that this should happen in Gibraltar. And here we are again leading in another field.
Clive, the Calpe Conference draws big names to Gibraltar. People who share a passion, who share a subject, get together, they are able to discuss, to come up with ideas and bounce ideas. But what's the value to Gibraltar of a Calpe Conference?
It's huge value, and with these Calpe Conferences, if you think of the name Gibraltar's had, if you think of when we started, for example, the work on Gorham's and Vanguard caves was barely starting, and now it's a worldwide brand name. That is the value. It's incredible now how I go abroad, or people tell me that they've heard of Gibraltar through these conferences, one, and secondly, also how much they have heard of the Calpe Conference, which is remarkably, most of the speakers have come here today, when we invited them, immediately reacted in a positive way. Everybody, some of these people were extremely busy, very high demand on their time, and they all said they would come. They would come because it was Gibraltar, because it was the subject, but also because they'd heard of the Calpe Conferences, the way they're organized, and what value they have. So I think this has a huge, apart from the intrinsic scientific aspects or historical, depending on the conference, has a huge marketing value for Gibraltar PLC.